Historians studying the long-distant past must piece together clues about past civilization from artifacts, artwork, and what documents and journals they can find from that period. However, luckily for historians studying the more recent past, photographs exist to capture quite literally the goings-on of history. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 instances where historical photos gave us a strange glimpse into what life was like many years ago. The Ape Man of the Amazon. In 2012, a series of photographs circulated throughout the internet and became an instant viral mystery. These photos showcased an ape man that was discovered in the Brazilian jungle. In the 1930s, a Dutch magazine featured these pictures and described the man as the missing link. It gained a little attention when it was published in 1937, but reached the entire world when it resurfaced in 2012. Millions of people saw the pictures on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit and began coming up with their own theories and speculations. Online users were intent on figuring out the mystery and proving it to be a hoax. Some were eager to believe it to be true, while others argued it was merely prosthetics and makeup that changed the man's face. The man in question was bent over as if he were walking like a monkey and had ape-like lips and a deep-set brow. His nose and ears were larger than most people, and in every photo he held his hands in fists, closing the knuckles. Scientists, historians, and online observers were quick to critique the pictures and point out obvious flaws in the hoax. Although the magazine claimed the man was a wild creature caught in the Amazonian jungle and was closely related to apes, he was surprisingly hairless. His face was clean-shaven and his hair neatly cut. Many also noted how poorly the prosthetics and makeup were applied to his face. You can see a faked line from the nose to the chin that connects the pieces and holds them in place. Critics claimed that his hair lay over his forehead to cover the prosthetics and blend in the makeup. Some claim that the most likely explanation for these photos is that the man was born with congenital disabilities and made to wear the prosthetics. Individuals born with defects were treated as outcasts and freaks during this period, so whoever planned these pictures probably exploited him to pretend to be an ape man. While most dismissed this picture as a fake, many people believe in ape-like creatures that you can only find in remote and hidden areas. Sasquatch in North America and the Yeti in the Himalayas have garnered attention and followers for decades, prompting many to explore the wilderness, searching for them. There is even a mythic ape-like beast that supposedly lives in the remote woods of Australia. The Aboriginals call it the Yowie and claim it reaches 5 feet in height. There will always be hope for finding the missing link in human evolution, and since there are so many areas of the world still unexplored, there will always be people searching for it. Radium Girls' Luminous Watches. In the early 1900s, glow-in-the-dark accessories became immensely popular, and everyone wanted them. Watches were an especially prized item because their paint didn't need changing and always shined as if they were magic. The watches first began being mass-produced in New Jersey factories in 1916, who first hired nearly 70 women to paint them delicately. Painting in the factory was well paid, and many women were eager to work. As the industry grew, factories sprung up all over the United States and employed thousands of women. None of them were aware that their work involved using and ingesting a dangerous radioactive element, radium. The women needed a sharp and finely pointed paintbrush to draw on the dials accurately, since the watches were so small. The factory owners and managers instructed the workers to keep their brushes pointed by wetting them with their mouths. They lied to the women, telling them that the paint was safe to ingest and that they had nothing to worry about. The workers also had to contend with the radioactive dust that flew up when they mixed the paint, covering their hair and clothes in shimmer. The women loved it because of the shine, not realizing they were breathing in radium. Radium was a well-known and popular element during this time. In 1898, Marie Curie and her husband discovered radium and dramatically improved cancer treatments with it. People believed it was a healthy vitamin that would provide you with energy and cure all ailments. They began adding it to toothpaste, food, drinks, and cosmetics, claiming it was a powerful health tonic. At the time, everyone assumed that it was completely harmless to take. They understood that the radioactivity released energy, but were oblivious to any negative side effects it could cause. They believed that adding energy to the body was beneficial and necessary, which is far from the truth. Radium is incredibly dangerous when ingested because the body mistakes it for calcium. Repeatedly ingesting radium leads to bone cancers within just a few years. The watches grew in popularity until the 1920s, when scientists and researchers began to understand radioactivity truly. The Radium girls, however, were completely unaware of their poisoning because symptoms did not immediately develop. They all believed they were in healthy conditions because the radioactivity appeared to provide energy and stimulate the red blood cells. It only took a few years until the women began to feel the effects of their radium poisoning. In the early 1920s, they started to suffer from toothaches and jaw pain. Molly Maggier was the first Radium girl to pass away in 1922 from radium jaw, although the reason for her loss of life was incorrectly written as syphilis. Radium jaw was the most prevalent result of radioactivity. The bones became so weak and brittle that the jaws were literally withering away and could simply be lifted off the face. There is no exact number of how many women lost their lives from working in the factories, as some symptoms developed slowly throughout their lives. Experts estimate the numbers reach the thousands. In 1927, Grace Fryer sued her factory with 4 others and won the case. The government eventually banned the lip-pointing practice, and factories were required to provide protective gear. Multiple women sued radium companies over the years, helping create many of our current labor laws and even allowing scientists to examine them to study radioactivity. Nearly everything that we understand about radiation is because of them. Enos, the first primate to orbit the Earth. On November 29, 1961, Enos launched into space to become the first primate to achieve Earth orbit in 1 hour and 28.5 minutes. He was the second chimpanzee that NASA used for space research, but received much more intensive training than his predecessor, Ham. He completed over 1,250 hours of training, including aircraft flights, weightlessness, and psychomotor instructions. He trained for over a year before he was suddenly chosen for NASA's Project Mercury flight. Previous Mercury flights were crewless and launched with a simulator. NASA planned to use Enos's flight as a test before launching American astronauts into orbit. Enos was on board Mercury 5 for 2 orbits around Earth. Despite being scheduled to conduct 3, there were malfunctions in the capsule that prevented the last orbit. Enos was trained using avoidance conditioning, where he would receive an electric shock to his feet whenever he failed to complete a simple task. The trainers used oddity problems. Enos was presented with 3 shapes and needed to pick out which shape did not match the others. He would then press the lever associated with that shape. If he got it wrong, he was shocked. During his flight, Enos had to work through multiple oddity problems. While his first test was fine, the lever in the center malfunctioned during the next tests. The test kept showing him the same problem repeatedly, and he was unable to get it right because the correct answer needed the broken center lever. As he orbited the Earth, he was shocked 33 times in a row because of the malfunction. He received 35 total shocks in the second test before it moved on to other tasks. Unfortunately, after a while, Enos was once again forced to go through the oddity problems with a malfunctioning lever. In this session, he was shocked 41 times. NASA scientists were surprised that his overall performance and behavior were not affected by so many electrical shocks and that he could continue with his tasks. NASA ended his flight early and sent him back to Earth. However, he did not land where he was supposed to. It took over 3 hours until the USS Storms reached him. By that time, Enos had already removed his psychological sensors and urinary catheter and broke through the protective belly panel. Enos passed away a year later, on November 4, 1962, from dysentery caused by shigellosis, which is an illness when the immune system is suppressed. Researchers observed him for months before he passed away and reported that there were no space-related symptoms to cause it. He was then dissected and extensively studied, just like the first primate. Unlike Ham, though, his remains are nowhere to be found. Supposedly, his remains were sent to the Smithsonian Institute after his post-mortem examination. Perhaps we should thank them for their valuable work for what we have learned today. But what do you make of these 3 incredible historical photographs? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.